The Bmore Football Podcast is brought to you by Rice Law. Hello and welcome inside another edition. It is the Bmore Football Podcast. He is the longtime Baltimore Sun columnist, Mike Preston. I'm Jerry Coleman. You can follow us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, even on YouTube. All at one address, Bmore Sports Pod. Put it in the search engine, that's that magnifying glass, and then bookmark it. Subscribe or download, and you can also always watch us at baltimoresun.com. In this episode, Mike is back from beautiful Cincinnati. We'll recap the Ravens' first shutout since 2018, actually a shutout victory. We should preface it by saying that, as well as talk about if this really changes the outlook for the Ravens going forward. We'll also catch up with the Super Bowl winning coach of the Ravens back in 2000, Brian Billick, with an exclusive drop by. And of course, Professor Preston will give out his grades after the win over the Bengals. We kick it off, of course, with For the Birds, brought to you by Rice Law. Hey, Baltimore football fans, if you've been hurt in a car accident, don't go at it alone. The lawyers at Rice Law know how to fight for the compensation you deserve. Protect yourself, protect your family, and remember, best advice, call Rice. Learn more by going to ricelawmd.com. Again, ricelawmd.com. So Preston, the Ravens not only record their first shutout win since 2018, they blanked the Bengals for the fifth time in their team history. And wow, what an impressive feat to go into someone else's building and shut out another team, even though it did appear that the Bengals maybe mailed it in after the first 30 minutes, if not all together.
Oh, they did. I mean, and the Ravens knew that. And that's what you do when you go into someone else's house. You remind them of who they are and that they stink. And that's what they did by the half. It was done. It was over. 14-0. It was cold. It was -7 below, wind chill. I think it got up to 7 degrees total. And then by the half after the second quarter, it was done. And, you know, when you talk to the players in the locker room, they kept saying, hey, we sense that they really don't want to play. And they had lost the week before. Remember, they lost to Buffalo. And the Bills come back in that game, and they're done. They're finished. And, you know, Wally Williams, who used to play guard for the Ravens, who's still a friend of mine, used to tell me, he goes, when you lose five or you only win 5 or 6 games a year, when you get down to the end of the season, you have no shot, you just back the U-Haul trailer up and you load your stuff and you go home. That's what they did. They really went home, and there were 2 picks that Joe Burrow made, and I was like, what are you doing? What are you thinking? The one he threw to Kyle Van Noy over the middle, which he turned into, he gave it to Coleman, and he goes 95 yards per touchdown. What was he thinking? I don't get it. But then when I look back at the Bengals and say, they pretty much shut it down, and I don't blame them. You know, it's over, it's done, and let's go home. And that's exactly what they did. They went home.
It was the first complete game victory for the Ravens this year, but do we give them their flowers because of the opponent or the fact that they went to an opponent's place and took over their building? And again, special teams, offense, defense, all did their jobs together over 60 minutes, which we haven't seen basically for the first 13 games.
Well, we've been saying that for a long time. For instance, the last 7 weeks, if the Ravens don't commit turnovers, they win. All right? That's always been the bottom line for this football team. They're still the best football team I've seen here in Baltimore on paper. Just don't commit the turnovers. All right? And on Thanksgiving night, they had 5. You're not going to win games like that. You can forget that. But in this game, the feistiness that I saw, I haven't seen that all year from this team. That's what you want. Football is about execution. It's about strategy. It's about coaching. But you also got to have some emotion. You got to play with passion. And there's some fights, man. You just got to fight sometimes. And that's what this team did. Not only did they take shots at Burrow, but how about Ronnie Stanley? When their linebacker takes a shot at Lamar Jackson, I'm like, whoa, Ronnie Stanley gets up in the guy's face. Tough guys. That's what you want. 2000 and Super Bowl year, they had tough guys. In 2012, Joe Flacco got hot, but they still had Ray Lewis and Ed Reed, tough guys. All right. That's what this team is in need of. You got to have those tough guys, and they actually showed some toughness. Now, will that go further? I don't know, but at least you saw it. And guess who else you saw it in too? The Pittsburgh Steelers. Tough guys.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers, tough guy. That's what's going on. So does it set the stage for that final game when they played on Sunday night? Because it will be on Sunday night when they get down to it. Pittsburgh, Baltimore. Yeah, it's kind of headed that way, buddy.
It is. One thing that I found interesting is everyone was talking about how great of a week of practice they had. Again, after 14 weeks of practice, they finally could put a good week together. I don't know if Ed Reed's presence made a difference. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. But several players were saying, Friday was very physical. I was sore on Saturday. Harbaugh sort of pushed back on that. But what's your impression of what you saw in terms of the practice and how it carried over? Is that accurate?
When has there been a week in the 17, 18 years that John Harbaugh has been the head coach where he doesn't say, we practice very well? He says that every week. Even in the Bengals week when they lost because of 5 turnovers, he said, we practice very well. We're ready for the Bengals. Give it a break. Ed Reed comes out, and again, it's all great for young guys. Remember when Ray Lewis used to come out and used to deliver that boomer lock of, where would you rather be than right here, right now, playing that game? And, the young guys are going, oh, this is Ray Lewis. This is great. And then you see like J.O. in the back. Those guys, Bart Scott going, we've heard this before. It doesn't last long. It just comes down to having a passion, execution, coaching. Those are the basic things that require you or you need to win football games. And that's what the Ravens showed in that game. They ran the football. They played good defense. End of conversation.
Well, we know that Marlon Humphrey, much like Ed Reed, has no filter. And after the game, Marlon said that Ed came into the meetings, inspired the defensive backs. The rest of the team did say, hey, get the junk food out of the meeting rooms and make it a better place. And I asked Coach Harbaugh about that on Monday, and this is the way it went.
There was a lot made of Ed Reed visiting the facility last week. I don't know how much inspiration he provided. I think it was after you spoke, Marlon had said something about Ed commented on the junk food in the meeting rooms or something like that. I thought you had changed the whole health kick around here.
Is that a question or what? Oh, I'm not. Please,
Yeah,
elaborate on the question.
To about with the junk food in it. Do you have any
I have
idea?
no idea.
I
have no idea what you're talking about. I have no idea what you're talking about. There's snacks around here and there. I mean, yeah, whatever. You got snacks in your house?
Yeah, I don't play in the NFL. I have a lot of junk food. A lot of junk food.
Okay, I can tell. I eat junk food too. I had a Snickers bar today already. It was great. Post lunch, like a dessert kind of. It was amazing.
All right, forget being body shamed by the coach, but what a bunch of malarkey or crap, as I would say, because of course he heard about it. Again, I don't put much stock in what Marlon says. Apparently neither does the coach, but that was Ed Reed's observation. And, he went on this health kick, the coach, and reconfigured the whole diet and everything inside that facility. So I was surprised by Ed Reed's comment.
Jerry, the best part of the tape was John kind of laughing like little snidely whiplash at the end. That was funny.
Laughing at his own joke.
Yeah. And no, he was baiting you, which he usually does, but that was kind of funny.
What was really funny is we kept hearing about this is the coldest game in Ravens history, blah, blah, blah. Wait till you get to Green Bay in a few weeks and see how cold it is. But the fact that the Bengals, the fans that did show up, I give them a lot of credit, but they show up and their seats are covered in snow, which apparently I didn't know it's a violation of NFL policy because the team was too cheap to pay for snow removal. In Green Bay, they're able to sucker the fans into coming out and doing that. In Baltimore, they actually pay people to do it. In Cincy, they just, let it freeze over, like their chances of winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and they've done that in Buffalo. You see them paying those people, and fans come out 2-3 hours early before the game, clean it up. And Cincy, let me tell you something. That stadium was half filled, and that's being gracious to say it was half filled. There was no one there. There was no electricity. There was no excitement. And for them to be fine, I expected something like that to happen. There was no juice. And I think that's what the Ravens talked about. It was like, there's nothing here. So if we come out and just let them know, you're not winning today, we're not going to have all these turnovers. You're going to lose, and remind you, you are the Bengals. You don't win a lot of games, period. And they did. And that's exactly what happened. And as far as the NFL finding them, I would have fined them too. All right, just get out there and get it done. We got Brian Billick coming up, and I remember once that Brian Billick said he walks out in Cincinnati Stadium, and Jameson Hensley reminded me of this the other day. He goes, "Oh, Mike Brown must have got a lot of discounts on green seats here because it's a lot of green there. It's not part of their color scheme, I could tell you that, but it's all part of Cincinnati."
Cincinnati, the only team I know that practices, and when they do, you have to cross a highway to get to the practice facility. You have to cross a road to get to their practice facility.
Yeah, we saw that on the way in, and we just kind of laughed and just said, so Cincinnati, this is the way they play. This is the way they roll.
It is. All right, let's roll on here and talk about what's next for the Ravens. Another primetime affair as the Patriots come to town. The Ravens 3-5 at home this year. Their worst record at home in a decade. It would be nice if they finish on a winning note, but then you have the Patriots who are 6-0 away from Foxborough this year. How do you see it playing out on Sunday night?
That's going to be very interesting because they're not a great football team, and their quarterback has done well. Considering he doesn't have like a big time wide receiver. They just find ways to win, and I think that's a reflection on the head coach. Mike Vrabel is a very good, sound, fundamental football coach. In all the years he was in Tennessee, if you went back and you looked at the Titans, they always played hard. They always played well, and I remember him and John Harbaugh had their little exchange a couple years ago. Which was kind of funny because Mike Vrabel was about 6'5", 6'6", and he's about 260, 270. And, John, even with a bunch of Snicker bars, is about 185, 190. I think I know who I'm taking in that one. But they're sound. They're good. They've won games. And they're going to be ticked off because they had a 21-0 lead over the Bills. And then Josh Allen brings them back. And you can say whatever you want about Josh Allen, playing extremely well. And when he gets hot, you can't stop him. When he plays that well, and the Ravens found out in game one. But they're going to be ticked off. They're going to come here in Baltimore. And this is what I want to see, Jerry. I don't want to see the Ravens beat up on those teams anymore. All right? I don't want to see that. I'm tired of the Minnesotas and the Cincinnatis and Clevelands. Bring on the show. They talk about December football. It's here, okay? Bring on the Patriots. Bring on the Packers. Bring on Pittsburgh. Let's roll. See what you got. And hopefully they get the momentum going and they go into January because everybody talks about December football. No. It's January football. That's the important thing here. It's what you do in January.
And that's what we've been saying since the beginning of this podcast. They'll be judged by what they do in January, not December or November or October. And
right.
They need to play meaningful games in January. That remains to be seen. What doesn't remain to be seen is our next guest.
More of the Bmore Football Podcast right after this.
At Rice Law, we've won millions for our injury clients, taken on the biggest insurance companies, and fought in the toughest courtrooms, and made it clear, strong lawyers win strong cases. But none of that matters today. The only case that matters is yours, your fight, your future. And we're ready to go to battle for you. We don't rest on past victories. We fight every case like it's our only one. Because at Rice Law, the most important victory is the one we win for you.
Rice Law. Best advice, call Rice.
Shake Shack is an amazingly fun urban dining experience, so treat yourself this holiday season with some all-time Shake Shack favorites. From the Shack Burger and crinkle-cut fries to those unbelievably delicious hand-spun shakes, or try some of the limited-time menu items throughout the year. Stop by Shake Shack's newest location at the Festival at Wood Home Shops in Pikesville. See you there. Shop Maryland's largest adult-use and medical cannabis menu, located at 1114 Cathedral Street in Baltimore, with medical delivery available throughout Maryland 7 days a week, only at Relief Shop.
For the last 25 years, Wood Home Insurance has been Baltimore's premier independent home, auto, and business insurance broker, representing over 30 carriers. For example, need an auto quote? Wood Home shops them all. Geico, Progressive, Travelers, AAA, Safeco, and Selective, and sends you back the best rates possible. I have personally been a client for over 2 decades, and they are world-class in service. Wood Home's owner, Rich Gottlieb, is happy to schedule a Zoom appointment with you at your convenience. Oh, and Rich is a longtime Ravens season ticket holder, so when at the game, let him know where you're tailgating. He'll drop by and say hello. So for all your needs, it's Wood Home Insurance, 410-580-2800 or woodhomeinsurance.com.
Meet the newest member of the Jack Daniels family, Jack Daniels Tennessee Blackberry. Jack Daniels takes pride in Old Number 7 being the backbone of all our flavors, and Jack Daniels Blackberry is no exception. A combination of our proprietary black liqueur and Jack Daniels' unique and unmistakable character, Jack Blackberry is a highly versatile juxtaposition of flavor. Delightfully sweet, bold, vibrant, and refreshing, Jack Blackberry is easily enjoyed with your favorite mixer, in a cocktail, or while enjoying your next football game. Jack Daniels Tennessee Blackberry is here, and as always, Jack Daniels reminds you to drink responsibly. For years, we were told to say no, but Verano is rewriting that story with award-winning flower, vapes, edibles, concentrates, and topicals for every kind of vibe. Shop smart with Savvy, treat yourself with Encore chocolates, relax with an Avexia bath soak, or keep it light with Bits gummies. Want something premium? Grab Essence pre-rolls or a Reserve Eighth. Verano makes premium cannabis for all. Find out for yourself. Head to one of our original sponsors, Relief Shop in Baltimore on Cathedral Avenue, and mention Bmore Verano for an exclusive deal. That's Bmore Verano. This ad and products are intended for legal consumers 21 and over. Effective Solutions, your one-stop shop for commercial contracting. Everything from excavation and site development to emergency remediation and restoration. Effective Solutions specializes in many forms of commercial and mixed-use construction. With a dedicated staff and a commitment to quality, Effective Solutions delivers every time.
We welcome in the former Ravens Super Bowl winning coach, Brian Billick, who Mike and we can say we covered every single day, much to his chagrin. Brian Billick, we welcome you to the podcast. How you been?
Doing great. Life's good. A little snowy and cold here in Columbus, but other than that, doing good.
You know, I got to start off by saying one of the greatest lines I've ever heard you utter. I think it's very underplayed, and I would use it on the radio all the time. I don't remember who asked you the question. May have been me or someone else, but you said, maybe this was to the fans, maybe it was to the media. The quote was, have another beer and make another observation. And I love that. And in the world of social media, I think that applies more so than ever before with the advent of social media and the way things have changed in terms of coverage of the NFL and its popularity.
Yeah, I mean, in my day, it sounds, you can definitely tell I'm getting older, but even in my last years, which was 2007, that had not really taken off. So certainly the critique from the local media and the national media was constant, and you dealt with it. And it seemed like a lot. Well, now it's ubiquitous. It's everywhere. And the hard part is the thing you have to hold at arm's length is 99% of it is critique coming from people that don't know a screen pass from a screen porch. But yet they're still going to feel like, well, let me tell you what you're doing wrong, or let me tell you what needs to be different, which is fair. I mean, that's it. And, when I left the coaching ranks and went in, I was one of the talking heads for 12 years at Fox and the NFL Network. We did the same thing. We constant commentary of the whole time, recognizing that at the end of the day, nobody really knows. And all you're doing is giving an observation and an opinion, some more informed than others, but it can become, and it's a real challenge, I know it is, for the coaches and players today to hold it at arm's length. And they say they do and they don't listen to it, but we know that's not true.
I have to interject real quickly, Mike. What would life have been like for the late, great Tony Siragusa had social media been around when he played, Coach?
Yeah, Mike knows. I mean, you're talking about waiting for a bomb to go off, like moving the Raiders to Las Vegas. What could possibly go wrong, right? And Tony would have taken advantage of it and been all over it and and that's the hard part as a coach, is you have to deal with it. You have to, you can't just say, okay, I'm going to ignore all that's going on the outside, because your players are getting drawn into it. And that's the hard part right now.
So, Brian, when you came in, did you have to change the culture because you replaced the late Ted Marchibroda? But was that something that you emphasized here, the culture?
Well, yeah, everybody when they come in says, yeah, that we want to create a culture, right? And so what does that really mean? Because, the guy that you replaced in any of these jobs, at the end of the day, they had what they thought was a pretty well-defined culture too, and was pretty well-based. The question is, can you fulfill it? Can you wrap the right people around it that buy into it? That's really what it comes down to. It's not that the culture is right or wrong, or really, quite frankly, any different than anybody else's. I used to love it in the draft when people would say, yeah, so-and-so organization, they really covet getting the tough, smart, hardworking player. They prioritize that. Oh, I guess compared to the rest of us that want the lazy idiot, right? Because that, we certainly don't want that. We're not looking for it either.
Right.
So, it really comes down to, you have to set that culture, and it has to be consistent. But can you wrap people around it, both in the building and obviously your fan base and everybody else, ownership and the players? Can they buy into it? That's the challenge right now, obviously, with all the talk about John and Mike Tomlin and how long they've been there, and if there needs to be a change, which is ridiculous, because you can make a change. You're not going to get a better coach. You're just going to get a different coach.
Right.
And that's a legitimate observation sometimes, because that message that we're talking about, that culture, that's hard to maintain over a long period of time, because eventually everybody kind of gets numb to it. And the message you're trying to push is the same one, because you don't change a great deal. That's hard to sell over a longer period of time, that the new guy will come in and basically stress the same things, but it'll just sound different.
Well, how long does the message last, Brian? Usually.
Well, Bill Walsh was a very firm believer that you had about 10 years. And Bill lived up to his word. That's when he left the 49ers, because he had a very firm belief that beyond that, it's tough for it to be maintained. Doesn't mean you can't, because it really comes down, if you're winning, yeah, it's fine. If you're losing, that's where it challenges you. Andy Reid's a perfect example. Andy Reid went beyond that 10 years and had the quarterback change, and it began to struggle. And the message was beginning to fall flat, not the least of which because they didn't have as good of players. Well, they had to make the change. Now, it's absurd to say that Andy Reid wasn't a good coach and needed to be fired. No, there just needed to be that change of tone. If you have a quarterback that can carry you through that period, then you got a pretty good chance of, well, no, my message is still going to resonate, because it's obviously resonating with him and we're still going to win. It usually comes down to that transition of, have you been there 10 years and now do you need to make the quarterback change? And that's when it becomes very difficult. Where Mike Tomlin is right now is a perfect example. Obviously with Rodgers, and he's going to do well, but the voices of there needs to be a different voice here, and likely to be a quarterback change next year, that now becomes kind of a tough combo.
Well, it's interesting because you mentioned you've been away from coaching for a while, yet the Steelers and Ravens still, to me, the best rivalry going in the NFL.
No question.
Those two franchises have. What also hasn't changed a lot in some stadiums is the artificial turf on some of these fields. It's still unbelievable. We see these ACL injuries continue. It makes me harken back to that day of the Vet in Philly in that exhibition game when you said, no, we're playing this game. And the Philly fans didn't like that, but it was a smart move in retrospect.
Yeah, but yes, absolutely. Because that was a different, that was your dad's AstroTurf. You know, it was carpet. The turf they have now is really, and I will push back on that a little bit. Yes, it's tough, but I don't know that it's any less safe than normal turf this time of year. When we're talking about in November and that's when you're really talking about it. In November and December, our problem in M&T Bank Stadium was because once you got into November, the shading in the stadium created, you remember how bad that turf was. You'd pull it up, you know, no matter how you tried to protect it and upgrade it and change it out. It was not good turf. Pittsburgh, notably, was always this time of year a terrible turf, not the least of which is they're too cheap to keep it up in the right manner. So the AstroTurf now going forward, and it's a different AstroTurf. So yeah, it's one of those things that's irreplaceable evil. Yeah, you'd like not to play on AstroTurf, but right now this time of season, it's probably the best option available.
So Brian, you came from Minnesota and you scored all of those points, had that high-powered offense. What was it like coming here, and was that a major adjustment switching over to that defense?
Not the least of which, particularly in the second year, I had to recognize and had to make the tactical change. Because like everybody, you come in because you're a supposed expert on one side or the other. And that's the perspective you bring. And I brought the offensive perspective that this is what you had to be in order to win a championship. Not just good and score points and all that. Everybody wants to do that. But what does it take to win a championship? And you believe that takes this level of offensive performance and this performance from the quarterback position. Well, in that 2000 season, we were in a unique time. We were in that transition from the previous generation of great quarterbacks, the Aikmans, the Montanas, the Elways, the Marinos. We had not yet come into that new generation of the Peyton Mannings and the Drew Breeses and the Aaron Rodgers. So that our championship, Tampa's and New England's, who were won with Brad Johnson and a first-year Brady, you couldn't win with great defense because there wasn't going to be that huge insurmountable offense looming in the playoffs. And we won because of it. And so that took the transition you're referring to, Mike, that I had to about, quarter of the way through the season recognize, okay, yes, we can win with don't turn the ball over, run the ball effectively, and play great defense and win a bunch of 17-10 games. That you can win a championship with that. Before that, it was, well, no, you can't win that way. You've got to be more dynamic offense. So I had to make the tactical change of this is what we committed to being, which sounds a little ambitious in terms of, okay, we can just run the ball and don't turn the ball over. Sounds awful pedestrian, but that can win a championship. Today, no. You can't win a championship with that. You need more dynamic play out of your quarterback and your offense. But then, as it was with Tampa Bay and New England, you hold on to that formula and play good enough. Not good defense, great defense. You got a chance.
So how about the Texans? Can they win with what they got down there? That's the question.
Yeah, you know what? I think the great thing about the AFC right now, Mike, and I think you would agree with this, and it's got to be encouraging for the Ravens fans, is it's anybody's to have.
Right.
There is no team. You think New England and Denver, that those teams are what you were staring at the last couple of years when, God, we got to go to Kansas City. We got to go to Buffalo. Yeah. We got to go to Baltimore. That specter does not exist. And that's not a criticism of those teams. It's just where we are. It is literally anybody's game. So, yes, you can, as you look at the landscape right now, particularly as it pertains to the Ravens, you can see a path to the Super Bowl. You really can. Now, it's not going to be easy, and they've got to play better in certain areas, and like they did against the Bengals compared to what they did against, and do those things that, not give up the explosive plays and run the ball and play good defense. But I can see the Ravens getting into the playoffs, and if indeed they get there, it's going to be as the fourth seed because it means they've beaten Pittsburgh because that's the only way to get in. They're going to get a home game, that first game. It's unimaginable they're not going to be favored. And then if they win it, then what point spread do you put on them going to Denver or New England? maybe 3 points, 4 points, and you
Right.
get 3 points for a home game. So you're basically saying it's a toss-up. So even from the clinical betting standpoint, that tells you how wide open this field is right now, and everybody has a viable chance at it.
And I would submit, and I said this to Mike previously, when you won in 2000 and then John won in 2013, the Ravens weren't the favorites that year. They went on unbelievable runs. Your team, obviously, late in the season. Same thing in 2013 and captured the Lombardi Trophy. But whenever the Ravens seem to be the prohibitive preseason favorites, it doesn't work out that way.
Because what happened in ours, we went through that tough time in October, that losing streak, but then we came out of it stronger and went on that 11-game run, not the least of which is who we played. And in the playoffs, I mean, and you look at who we had to beat. Look at who we had to beat at quarterback, not to diminish what we did, but it was Brian Greasy. It was a Steve McNair who was pretty damn good, but we were familiar with Steve. We weren't intimidated by that because we knew we played them and played them a lot. Rich Gannon, who was just basically handing the ball off and throwing the ball about 25 times a game. And then, again, I'm drawing a blank, the guy out of the Panthers that was in New York. So it wasn't like a killer's row of quarterbacks.
Right.
Okay?
Nick Plummer?
No. It was the guy, it was Carolina all those years. I'm old. You should know I'm old. That's the reason.
I know. I would say Cam Newton, but that was before his time.
So you look at the Ravens now, or any of the teams, everybody can have the same conversation. Who am I going up against at quarterback? Okay. If I have to go into Denver, it's a Bo Nix, who seems to be really great at times and not so great at times. Or I'm May, the kid at New England, who looks really, really good and is playing really, really well. Let's not slam dunk him into the Hall of Fame just yet, but he's playing pretty well. So, Mahomes is out. Now, Josh Allen is still sitting there. I get that. C.J. Stroud, who looks to be pretty good. But there's not this, oh my God, we got to go beat these guys with this quarterback at that place, and you look at the Ravens' second Super Bowl, what happened? Yeah, good solid team, play good defense. Joe Flacco had kind of a pedestrian year, but then went on a playoff run, 11 touchdowns and no interceptions. So he got hot at the right time and played very well. Your quarterback played very well, and it took them all the way to a Super Bowl. So, yeah, that ability to step up and be better than you are right now, mainly because you're healthy, and a lot of teams aren't, and looking for, it still comes down to Lamar. He's clearly not what he was in the past from the standpoint of that leg. You never really get over a hamstring in season. So he's clearly favoring that a little bit. I don't mean he's pulling back, but he's not opened it up where the Ravens have so relied on those 4 and 5, 20 and 30-yard runs. They may get that back in the playoffs, but they're playing good enough defense and running the ball that they're going to size up well with anybody they want to play.
Well, Brian, in 2000, that Tennessee game in the playoffs, were you surprised that they put that video of you up on that screen? And the Benji speech was excellent. That's one of the best speeches ever.
Yeah.
And then you have the two players exchanging hugs in your locker room after the game. And one more question: the Super Bowl, that media, media that you gave, that speech you gave then, telling about, hey, you guys, we're not going to try this over again. What was going through your brain? How much of it did you rehearse and go over before you did those things?
Yeah, interesting. Both of those, of course, going to Tennessee. Now, remember, this was a team that had all year long had carried on the road the specter of the Ray Lewis situation, and we're a bunch of thugs. And I mean, every Sunday we would come in, and that theme in the papers that morning, on the talk show radios, and even at the stadium was, oh, these thugs, these bullies, these Ravens are coming to play, redredging the Ray Lewis thing over and over and over again. And I always thought, boy, y'all not to poke the bear. So when they put that up in Tennessee, I thought, oh, okay, well, this is cute and smarmy, but I don't think you should have poked the bear. And obviously it turned out. In terms of the Super Bowl, I'll tell you this: my one regret, and I don't have a lot of regrets about my life and my career and whatever it is, what it was. But the one regret was that I didn't get to go back to the second Super Bowl, step up to that news conference that the head coach has that when you first get in, and just go, and another thing, and just go off from there. You know, no, you know, it was what it was, to be quite honest, the genesis of it, the week of the bye week before the Super Bowl, not much. The whole, you know, again, we'd come through the whole year of Ray Lewis and that whole thing and yada, 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 and you're a bunch of thugs and bullies and this, that, and the other. Bye week, nothing. I said, okay, this is cool. We're going to be okay going in. They finally wore that out. Well, on the plane down, the night before, Jeremy Schaap replayed, and ESPN replayed that whole Ray Lewis montage, the kid, the nephew saying he's a murderer and coming out in the jumpsuit. We did the whole thing. I thought, okay, it's obviously they're just waiting for us to get there, and they're going to start the whole thing. And the message was simple. Guys, we've been, and I remember Kevin Byrne approached me on the plane down going, how do you want to handle this? You know, Kevin, who we called the fire starter, because Kevin, most of the stupid shit I said came from Kevin Byrne prompting me, you know, and knowing just how to get me going. And clearly, but okay, well, we got to set a tone that basically we're not going to engage in this, okay, this week. We've had our run. Everybody has had, at Ray and the team, we've, to use my term, litigated this the entire season. We're not going to do that here, okay? We're just not going to buy into that distraction. And I had talked to the team about it. And so when I got there and basically laid that out in very strong terms of, guys, we're not going to do that, okay? And so you can ask your questions, but I can tell you right now, and the team, you know, we're not going to do that. And then the thing that set it off was when the guy got up and said, well, what gives you the right to tell us how to do our jobs? And I said, well, because I got the microphone and you're asking me the questions, okay? So that obviously went over big, and it's amazing how I'll share another thing with you. So we win the Super Bowl, and I go, and as the infinite wisdom in the NFL, they decide the head coach the next morning should stand in front of the same media crowd and have a news conference after the most emotional time of your life and staying up literally all night, right, with the party and whatever. So I'm in a little green room to the side, and then the commissioner comes in. It wasn't Roger. God, the gentleman just died.
Tagliabue.
He comes in, and Kevin's with me, and he sits down, and he's scared to shit. He's scared to death now. Knowing, what are you going to say? And he said, you know, Coach, you know, I think it would be great to approach this in a professorial manner, in a very calm and intellectual approach. And Kevin just shakes his head, goes, that ain't going to happen. Because he was scared to death. And I don't know, it was kind of a harmless time after that. I don't think they really wanted to hear from me. Because the last thing I wanted to do after shoving that previous press conference up my ass all week and saying we were choking and we were panicked and obviously weren't up to the moment, and then after kicking the living shit out of the New York Giants, they really didn't want to sit there and ask a lot of questions of me with, okay, maybe we kind of knew what we were doing.
What a wonderful time that was. Should have been the first Super Bowl shutout ever, but there was that special teams miscue. So be it. And then 12 years later, John Harbaugh had to deal with something called deer antler spray. With Ray, a different controversy around Ray that was much ado about nothing, that too.
Amazing. Well, but anytime you get that good, there's going to be something that someone wants to poke at and think they have a different perspective or answer for. And it's just, the very first thing we started talking about. Dealing with that now in today's, it's a different beast.
So,
all right,
so
just
Brian,
a few more moments. Go ahead, Mike.
The Banji speech, all right? Did you get a feel like this was the WWE? I mean, they had it up on the screen. I mean, and they had your face up there when you kind of dropped that little F-bomb to the crowd. And I'm like, oh man, this is the WWE at its finest.
You know, again, I'll go back to Kevin Byrne, my mentor and fire starter. So we just beat Tennessee, big win. This is at the first time they lost at home. This is during the regular season.
Yep.
Okay. And because that's when that speech came out. Obviously, it was we were on the road. They were because remember they were the darlings. They were going to win the Super Bowl. They were the favorite all along, and we beat them it was a Delphi Coliseum, I think, at the time.
Yep.
Had not lost. They had not lost there, and we beat them. Well, I'm about to go talk to the team, and Kevin brings in the copy of the Sports Illustrated. He says, "I don't know if you saw this or not. You know, the one that says, are the Titans the best team in the NFL?" So he throws that on my desk in that little office I had there in that stadium. And he knew, okay, that's all you got to do is set me off with that. But to make the point to the team, trying to say, guys, this is who these guys are. So supposedly, well, you just kick their ass. Okay. So fair's fair. And did it in a rather animated, someone told me the other day, what they tell me, they said, you were a very emotive coach. I said, I like that. I'm going to use that. I'm going to use that instead of what other people call me. I'm just emotive.
Emotive. I like that. Last thing I have for you is about Lamar Jackson. A lot of fans obviously happy with the way this guy's career has gone. 2 MVPs, hasn't performed that well in the playoffs just yet. Some are declaring him among the greatest Raven ever, which I think is a bit premature. You coached a lot of the greatest Ravens ever. So how do you feel about Lamar and the way his career has gone and where it's headed?
Fabulous. We overuse the word because there's very few players in the league that are unique, but he is that. Just like a Patrick Mahomes is unique in an undescribable way and in ways that we really have not seen before. Lamar, the same way. He just does it. Obviously, the athleticism, the ability to change the game with his legs. He is a good enough thrower to beat you down the field. He's not the prototypical, pocket passer, and he's not necessarily going to beat you from the pocket. But in conjunction with his ability to run around that forces you to build the 8-man box that gives him the man coverage, he can make those throws. And it's a tough combination. And it reminds me of, in my day, when I was in Minnesota, we played Barry Sanders twice a year. They were in our division. And I remember, and Tony Dungy was our defensive coordinator. And Tony's the first one that come up with that box theory of don't rush, just create the box and let Barry Sanders come to you. It's the only way to stop him. Because if you leave any kind of hole, he's gonna gash you. And I remember, obviously being on the offense side, playing those games. Remember, I would become just enthralled with holding my breath every time Barry Sanders got the ball, because you just knew this guy's going to go off,
Right.
And that anxiety that comes with that, and that's the way the team. That not since then, I think, have we had a player now with Lamar that you've got to know, even now. On the sideline, they're just waiting for it. Is this guy going to go off? Every time he steps up in the pocket and seems to clear the rush, you think, oh boy, here it comes. That's a lot to carry around the whole game. That's a huge advantage. And so he, truly is a unique player that I hope the Raven fans can appreciate, because we've had the other. We've had a long litany of the other, of just how like the fans that had Peyton Manning all those years, and then Andrew Luck.
Right.
How lucky you are! You guys are pretty lucky to have that. Don't miss this opportunity to recognize how lucky you are to get to watch a player of this caliber.
So, Brian, are you surprised that the quarterback position, has evolved to the point it is where you have these guys running around and run pass options?
No, I'm not surprised by the athleticism of the quarterbacks now, because that's a natural evolution. I don't think, and even though their ability to run around is impactful, unique to Lamar Jackson, he's in his own class. The really great, if you just list the great quarterbacks right now that are in the league, whether it's Mahomes, whether it's Josh Allen, Burrow, who are clearly putting that. They're guys that have certain athleticism, but at the end of the day, they can still beat you from the pocket. if you passed a rule that said the quarterback cannot leave the pocket, obviously Lamar's game would be dramatically impacted. But those guys, we've never been in as good and as deep in great quarterback play as we are in this league right now. Notwithstanding the young guys coming up that can beat you from the pocket. They have that other element, and they run around and extend plays and whatever. But that ability to orchestrate and beat you from the pocket, we've never been as deep. And that's why it's so wide open right now. That's why everybody's viable. Because there's a lot of those kind of guys, not necessarily Hall of Famers, but where before we had like 2 or 3, we are, virtually everybody, as I see, particularly in the AFC, is going to go in with dynamic quarterback play. Bo Nix, again, up and down. The kid in New England, May, looks to have it. The guy at the Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence, looks like he's kind of coming into his own. Herbert down at the Chargers is phenomenal. Josh Allen, C.J. Stroud with the Texans. And we haven't even, we're eliminating in our mind already Burrow in Cincinnati and Mahomes in Kansas City. We're deep in some pretty good quarterback play. Right. So that's what makes the league so equitable right now.
Coach, listen, we really appreciate you taking the time. We got to get to one of your favorite segments, I'm sure, back in the day. It's Mike Preston's report card. I know you picked up.
Oh, I love it. I love being graded by Mike Preston. I just would look forward every week to seeing what grade do I get today.
I know it helped with your sleep a lot.
It does.
Thanks,
really,
Brad.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Very good.
All right, there he is, the coach. Doesn't get any better than that.
More of the Bmore Football Podcast right after this.
At Rice Law, we've won millions for our injury clients, taken on the biggest insurance companies, and fought in the toughest courtrooms, and made it clear, strong lawyers win strong cases. But none of that matters today. The only case that matters is yours, your fight, your future. And we're ready to go to battle for you. We don't rest on past victories. We fight every case like it's our only one. Because at Rice Law, the most important victory is the one we win for you.
Rice Law. Best advice, call Rice.
Shake Shack is a New York City-based fast casual restaurant known for its juicy burgers, crispy crinkle-cut fries, and rich hand-spun shakes. Try some of the limited-time menu items throughout the year, including the French onion menu and the new Big Shack. Stop by Shake Shack's newest location at the Festival at Wood Home Shops in Pikesville. See you there. Shop Maryland's largest adult use and medical cannabis menu, located at 1114 Cathedral Street in Baltimore, with medical delivery available throughout Maryland 7 days a week, only at Relief Shop.
For the last 25 years, Wood Home Insurance has been Baltimore's premier independent home, auto, and business insurance broker, representing over 30 carriers. For example, need an auto quote? Wood Home shops them all. Geico, Progressive, Travelers, AAA, Safeco, and Selective, and sends you back the best rates possible. I have personally been a client for over 2 decades, and they are world-class in service. Wood Home's owner, Rich Gottlieb, is happy to schedule a Zoom appointment with you at your convenience. Oh, and Rich is a longtime Ravens season ticket holder, so when at the game, let him know where you're tailgating. He'll drop by and say hello. So for all your needs, it's Wood Home Insurance, 410-580-2800 or woodhomeinsurance.com.
Meet the newest member of the Jack Daniels family, Jack Daniels Tennessee Blackberry. Jack Daniels takes pride in Old Number 7 being the backbone of all our flavors, and Jack Daniels Blackberry is no exception. A combination of our proprietary black liqueur and Jack Daniels' unique and unmistakable character, Jack Blackberry is a highly versatile juxtaposition of flavor. Delightfully sweet, bold, vibrant, and refreshing, Jack Blackberry is easily enjoyed with your favorite mixer, in a cocktail, or while enjoying your next football game. Jack Daniels Tennessee Blackberry is here, and as always, Jack Daniels reminds you to drink responsibly. For years, we were told to say no, but Verano is rewriting that story with award-winning flower, vapes, edibles, concentrates, and topicals for every kind of vibe. Shop smart with Savvy. Treat yourself with Encore chocolates. Relax with an Avexia bath soak, or keep it light with Bits gummies. Want something premium? Grab Essence pre-rolls or a Reserve 8. Verano makes premium cannabis for all. Find out for yourself. Head to one of our original sponsors, Relief Shop in Baltimore on Cathedral Avenue, and mention Bmore Verano for an exclusive deal. That's Bmore Verano. This ad and products are intended for legal consumers 21 and over. Effective Solutions, your one-stop shop for commercial contracting. Everything from excavation and site development to emergency remediation and restoration. Effective Solutions specializes in many forms of commercial and mixed-use construction. With a dedicated staff and a commitment to quality, Effective Solutions delivers every time.
All right, again, thanks to the coach. Time to get to the aforementioned Mike Preston report card. Professor Preston, go right ahead. Let's start with quarterback Lamar Jackson.
I gave Brian Billick, no, just joking. Lamar Jackson, 8 of 12 for 150 yards, had 2 touchdowns, but he's not back to being Lamar Jackson. There was one run in the second quarter, 14 yards around the left end, and I'm like, whoa, I haven't seen that kind of acceleration from him in a year. He looked like the old Lamar Jackson. But then again, he throws that high pass to Mark Andrews. He throws another high one to Zay Flowers in the back of the end zone. Even the touchdown pass he threw to Zay Flowers at the end of the second quarter, it's a great pass. It should have been picked because they played it almost perfectly except for the goofball safety from the Bengals forgot to slide over. But great pass by Lamar, but I gave him a B-. The running game, Derrick Henry, 11 rushes for 100 yards. I like what they did with Keaton Mitchell, 8 carries, 66 yards. And there's something that's still not right about him, though. The breakaway speed that he once had, I don't see it yet. There were 2 times in that game where I'm like, oh, he's gone. But he just didn't have it. But 8 carries, 66 yards. They did everything they wanted to do. Ali had the touchdown pass out in the right flat. So I gave them a B. And people keep saying, well, why did you give them a B? And I'm like, I gave their defense a lot of B pluses too because, and they had the first shutout since 2018. They played the Bengals. The Bengals quit at halftime. That game was over when it was 14-0. Done deal. Finish. Done. All right. So anyway, the offensive line.
The much maligned offensive line.
Yes, I gave them a B. The Ravens had like 312 yards of total offense. They ran the ball. 24 carries, 189 yards. They averaged 7.9 yards a carry. Their pass blocking is still poor, which they can't do. But the strength is running the football. And as the coach alluded to, pound the ball. That's what they have to do. Lamar is still indecisive about when to throw, when to eat the ball, when to throw it away. 4 sacks in that game. Not always on the offensive line, but not great either. But I gave them a B. And receivers, I gave them a C. They have 4 receivers who had a couple of passes, a couple catches. Zay Flowers, 3 catches for 68 yards. And he had the 28-yard touchdown reception.
Finally got his first touchdown since week 1. I'm sure he's happy about that.
And Mark Andrews, the thing about Mark Andrews is there's not a safety that can stick with him one-on-one, and you saw that in the second half of that game. 2 catches for 18 yards. Not a great day, but not a bad day. He was effective. At least the receivers looked like they were interested this time, as opposed to the previous 2 weeks when they said, no, they're just running the football. We got nothing here. So I gave them a C. Now on the defensive side, Jerry.
Yes.
I thought the defensive line played well. Not the pressure up front. And I think the Bengals had like close to 100 yards rushing, but that was in the fourth quarter. No one cares. I mean, they started to empty the bench. The Ravens did. They did a nice job there. I gave them a B+. Linebackers. Roquan Smith had a lot of tackles in that game. I think he finished with like 12. Let's double check here. Now he had 14 tackles. I thought the outside guys, the outside linebackers, put a lot of pressure on Burrows. And the best thing from this game, for me anyway, was the intensity which the Ravens played on defense. They were actually smacking people around. And I'm like, they haven't had this all year. They were getting after people. They were cheap shotting Burrow a little bit, but they weren't throwing any flags. So I'd bang them around too. You just keep doing it till you get away with it.
Yeah, good on Draymond Jones for doing that, getting in Burrow's face.
But weren't they teammates in college or something? So he could do that. No one cares. But T-Rob, got a lot of pressure. Nice job. And I want to see if he can do that again, because you have Tavius Robinson, when you're out for like 8 or 9 weeks, your legs are fresh. I mean, you just go back and look at that game. He's like bouncing around, running around like a guy in the sandlot, like a little kid. And I'm like, yeah, that's what happens when you ain't played in 8 or 9 weeks, and all of a sudden you're in the game. But I gave them a B. The secondary, and I've been hard on them all year, I gave them a B+. I mean, Kyle Hamilton, Gilman, even Wiggins, Nate Wiggins, they all had 8 tackles. And what they did that was very good was they came up and made the tackles, because once it was over at the half, it was 14-0, those guys came up and they just kind of played a little zone, but they tackled everything in front of them. So I gave them a B+. I thought they were superb. I'm not ready to give Ed Reed all these major props.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Ed Reed. What's the speech?
Please.
Get out of here. That works for young players. The veterans, they don't care. They don't want to hear that. It's like the former University of Maryland coach, the late Joe Krivak, used to say about the boomer lockers before the pregame. Mike, you can give them, but after about 10 minutes, they wear off, and they do. All right, that's what happens. Special teams, I gave them a B. Charlie Kohler had 3 tackles, 3 assists. Hummel, the linebacker, had 2. Trent Simpson, not only did he play well, filling in for Buchanan, but he had 2 tackles on special teams. That's a pretty good day. I gave them a B. In coaching, I gave a B. I thought they played hard. I think they came out with an intensity that was there that I hadn't seen before. And maybe it was because they lost to Cincinnati on Thanksgiving night, and they have 5 turnovers. And you keep hearing it, 5 turnovers. This team is not that good. Jerry, before we entered that game, the Bengals had the worst defense in the NFL. They were ranked number 32. They were ranked 32 in run defense. And the Ravens just come out, control the ball, don't turn it over, punish this team. And that's what they did. They conquered. But I will say this, all these grades were prefaced because they played the Bengals. They stink. That's a bad football team. And anytime the NFL finds you because you don't go out and clean the seats with the snow and the ice before the game, you're a cheap team. You're a cheap franchise. You deserve what you got. And that's why the Ravens shut you out for the first time since 2018.
Great stuff. Terrific stuff, really. I'm sure Brian Billick would have loved to have heard that, but he left. And great to have Coach Billick here on the podcast. Not the last former or current Raven coach or executive that will appear on this podcast. We're still waiting on Mr. Eric DaCosta and his promise. We're back next week, right after the primetime game against the Patriots. Shout out to Barry Levinson, who listens and watches every week. We hear you and we see you. Until next time, after the Patriots game, be kind, be real, and make sure to be back next week, next Tuesday. As a matter of fact, another edition of the Bmore Football Podcast.
The Bmore Football Podcast is brought to you by Rice Law.